Call the meeting to order. Let's do the pledge of allegiance. We don't have
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll lead off on the discussion of budgets. Lisa Crosby, excuse me.
Yeah, I submitted the Lake Region Heritage Center's budget, and basically, we still definitely need city and county help. We're doing better, I think. We're getting the word out, saying we're open and alive, and foot traffic this summer, even though we had a lot, we've had a lot of construction things going on, which I'm not sure, I wasn't there last year. Maybe that helped bringing people to me, because I'm not sure. But we have had good foot traffic. I'd say between 5 to 15 people a day that were open come in for tours. I try to give personal tours. If I'm not able to, we do have a walking tour. We're getting our after-school program, which will be Fridays coming this school season going. We'll be advertising for that. We have up to 19 spots. I'm just finishing up the child care license for that, but we should be up and running by September 1 for that. We have a lot of things going on, I guess. I have a lot to do with the Maritime Museum coming over. It's astoundingly hot on the third floor, which I didn't really think that was going to be a major thing, but it's very hot on the third floor right now. So cleaning it up has been a little bit harder than I thought, but we do plan to get some help from the BFW and some volunteers to get up there and get that cleaned out so we can move the maritime things over. Get them in our system for archives and artifacts so that people are able to come and view those things without an elevator. Third floor is difficult, we know that. So on the first floor we will have a rotating exhibit of some of those things throughout the year at all times. There'll be one set designated spot for that. Other than that, just a lot of things going on. I have a lot of irons in the fire that I work on every day. We have a gentleman that comes from Experience Works that works with me 3 days a week, so he does a lot of the just general maintenance, mopping, dusting, anything I need him to do. He's been a great asset to me, and if I need to leave for business, I can. He's been huge. So we are open the entire time from 10 to 4 Tuesday through Saturday. But other than that, our goals are to start memberships again. I need to go over with the board benefits for that membership, because it's kind of lofty as to what they were and what they need to be. So I'm calling different museums and places like ours, the size of ours, to see what their benefits would be, to put it together a package and then get mailings out for that. Fundraising, just different little events throughout the year. We did get the North Dakota Council to Arts grant for the next 3 years, so about $6,000 a year I have to spend on getting art exhibits in, entertainment, performers, different things such as that, and to create some revenue for us, but also awareness for the arts in our area, which I'm excited for.
Who'd you say you had helping you on the third floor? Who was it?
Well, I hope the Veteran Service Organizations,
Okay.
so VFW, 40 and 8, the American Legion, guys like that. We know that there isn't a lot of people that can get up to the third floor to help us, so there's a few select that I will ask.
Is
Jack
there
will.
a lot of lifting and stuff to get some of that up and down, or?
Just a few things for lifting, and then whatever's in the Maritime Museum to get up there will be a lot of lifting. So I'll probably be asking ROTC, things like that. The kids, get them involved, good volunteer hours.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so
Are we moving the Maritime Museum up there?
they're moving most of the things up there.
Okay.
Apparently they don't have, well, we've talked with the board there and we put together kind of a partnership because they don't have anyone really to man it. So it's not open.
Right.
So at least there's someone in the Lake Region Heritage Center so people can view it. Again, third floor stuff, but I will have something on the first floor until we can get that elevator in the next, hopefully, 5 to 10 years, so.
Any other questions you got about your budget, or you want us to answer, or we're capped on what we can support you
Yeah.
with, so.
Yeah, no, I just really appreciate the support that you do give us. We certainly still need it. Sometime, you know, we hope to not be needing all of that support, but at this time, it's so needed, so.
Lisa, one question that I have for you. I noticed that your permanent salaries are essentially doubling, or is the Heritage Center looking to add another full-time staff person?
No, from last budget, that's actually went down. But it's not doubling.
What are you looking at? Oh, you're looking at that budget, yeah.
Never mind.
I'm like, what?
Oh, there it is. Sorry, I was, okay.
You're on pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I did put in hopefully a little bit of a raise and then maybe some part-time help, but right now I'm not looking to hire anyone from our budget. That will be hopefully in the future, but
Lisa, I noticed you had a couple different revenues for rentals. Could you explain the difference between the two? One's a general rental of museum space and the other one is just rentals.
I think the general rental of museum space, we're putting that for things like our birthday parties, weddings, receptions, meetings, things like that. And then the other space, which I should have brought my glasses, I believe is parking
Okay.
and I can't find it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, parking and off the top of my head, I can't think of it, but I'm sure our parking lots, our parking spaces. There's one other thing that goes in there, but I can't think of it right now. But we hope to definitely get, you know, our rentals for the main space up to that mark. I think we will. We're doing some auctions, land auctions, not like items. I don't want a whole bunch of stuff coming into our museum, but land auctions where people just watch off of the projector and we have a space for them to do that. Piper's is coming in a few different times already, so I'd like to do that. And then big meetings, we have Rotary coming. They're not paying, it's just to get people in the building and get tours. Rotary, Kiwanis was there, things like that. Anything else?
No, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Casey?
Morning.
Morning.
Well, as far as the budget goes for veteran service, I am retiring, it is official. March 31st will be my exit. And my initial plan is to train my replacement January, February, and March. Bring in somebody, let him come in part-time, and then I want to see him through the first conference, our spring conference. Let him get his feet wet there. The state offers approximately 10 days of training, which is way woefully short. So therefore, I know that I've already had veterans ask me once I leave, can they call me at home? Well, I don't want to get into too much of that stuff, but I know enough veterans now that they're going to call me anyway. And so I wanted to have the guy that's, whoever's replacing me, knowledgeable enough so that I don't have to be relied on too darn much once I've left. So that's kind of my plan. The only change in budget, I think, is we increased the travel for that spring conference slightly, and then the salary adjustment. In the salary, we had allowed for a part-time of $22,144. I think once I'm gone, there will be a savings based on what the starting salary is for the new person.
That's basically what you raised is to put that part-time.
Yep. Now, I do have a person in mind for the job, but I know we have to advertise but I've been working closely with Bryce Crosby out at Camp Grafton. He has a firm grasp of knowledge on veterans and VA system. He does all the preparation of medical records for every guard person retiring and leaving the guard. And so I do favor him as a replacement. He knows things that someone who's just coming off the street would never know. So he's got a good foothold on the whole business there.
So officially you'll be done end of this year then?
You know, I'll be done March 31st. That's why I'm, that's why the budget reflects a salary increase, but yet, once I've gone, and I'm assuming that whatever his salary would be at a starting point, so then there'd be savings there.
Question, Stacy? Okay, well,
Other counties on board with everything?
I haven't talked to the other counties. Basically, that'll be probably something that negotiations have to have as far as the contracts go. I think we talked about, and Lucas mentioned that when we brought in a part-time, we could share and give more service to these outside counties until I'm gone. And I think that would be a wise choice, is to put him in the two outside counties while we're working through training and that kind of thing. Let him get a better idea of what he's stepping into.
still seeing a lot of that, so. a lot of people-
Here we see a lot. We're still averaging well over 100 here in Devil's Lake. Yesterday in Dakota, Minnewacan is very small, mostly phone calls, Minnewacan. What Minnewacan and Benson County are seeing is they'll call me in Minnewacan, but they'll come here. It's still that idea of walking in off the street.
You make it very plain to the Benson County Commission then that how many you're seeing here.
Oh, certainly, yeah, in fact, that's part of the report that I give is how many, and then Dave even Doris over there has asked me to, because I do offer services to veterans outside of the 3 counties that we serve. I've got numerous guys from Pierce County, Eddy County, up north further, Rolette, so I see a lot, and it's all because of the clinic. But when they head to the clinic and don't have the paperwork right, they come to me.
Yeah, that's a big win there, that's been a few grants. Any other questions? Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
Molly?
Morning.
Morning.
All right.
Here we go.
Sorry, I didn't send out earlier.
This is I should say, each grant that SAFE applies for, we have to provide reports to them on our numbers. This particular report is for the Justice Assistance Grant, which is out of the North Dakota Attorney General's office. This is for the first 6 months from January until June of this year. These are our numbers. The reason I chose to share this report particularly is because it breaks down on the counties, which is on the second page. So far, we have seen, or we have had 92 victims that have utilized our services just within the first 6 months. Particularly from Ramsey County, there were 51. And then on, just to point out on the last page in our shelter, we had 21 victims that have utilized our shelter within the first 6 months, and that is not counting the children, their families that came with them.
As a semi-related question to this 51 individuals that have come through,
Yes.
how does that compare to last year and the year before? Is that about the same or is that higher?
Our numbers are getting higher. We have averaged, I'd say 90 to 100 victims per year. However, this year alone, we have had an increase due to the outreach that we're doing in the other counties, the other underlying counties. We do serve Wells, Eddy, Nelson, Towner, and we're doing more outreach there. This last year, our advocate, Arvine, opened an office in Harvey that she goes to twice a month.
Okay.
And because of that outreach, we are getting more clients. We have also done, or I should say, reached out a lot more with law enforcement, with the medical facilities. We're working a lot closer with Ultra Clinic now. We have gotten referrals actually from the hospital, from patients in the hospital. So it's, because of the outreach that we're doing, it's bringing in more victims, which is good, you know, that our services are there.
Yeah, no, I agree, it's good. You sort of teased out what my underlying question was, is if there has been an increase, is that increase due to more outreach and awareness, or is it due to a change in the environment?
No, it's because of our outreach. If you see on the first page, the presentations that we're doing, I know last year we didn't get to do as many, but this year, within the first 6 months, because we had hired a new advocate that came and she's just more energized and kind of brought more energy into our office, which then we utilized, I guess we were available for more services now because we have more staff.
Sure, thank you.
This one that I'd like to share, 2, 3. This is kind of a spreadsheet that I did for our budget. I listed all of our expenses on the first column, and then on the next column is the expenses for the year. And then on the top, I listed all the grants that we have so far. The VOCA grant, which is one that is done in September, that's the remaining amount that we have left in it. I just finished the VOCA application for this year, which starts October 1st. I did request $85,000. That's how I did it, but we haven't received the award yet. CBA grant we did receive. We do have that one. It's along the FFVP grant is a federal families violence prevention grant. The $588 is what's left until September 30th. The 1920 grant, we did get that one for $22,308. The stop formula grant, we did not get it this last year, but I did apply for it, and we haven't received word on whether or not we got it. Stop prosecution grant, we did get this year, however, it's spent out, we already spent it. And I did apply for this next year, and those grants don't start until October 1st. The DBOT grant is the Offenders Treatment Grant. We are offering now a Domestic Violence Offenders Treatment Program. That grant we just got, which is $21,000. The JAG grant, which is the report that I was talking to you about earlier, we've already spent it out. And we don't get to apply for it until 2020. So ESG is a emergency services grant, which is out of Department of Commerce. We did get that grant this year. And then the state general fund grant. The NDHG grant is a North Dakota homeless grant, which we did get this year, which was a very nice increase from the 6,000 that we got last year. That one, the increase in funds was for shelter operations. The rural grant is a 3-year federal grant that's coming out of the Council of Abused Women's office in Bismarck. We are a sub-grantee of that, so the 49,000 is paying half the salary for one of our advocates. DVPF grant is a grant that comes out of the marriage license department. It's split between all the DV agencies within the state. That's our average that we get. And then the shelter donations is $12,278. This is a donation that we received from the Shakopee tribe in Minnesota to assist with operations of our shelter. The Dulles Lake Area Foundation grant, we did get a $2,000 grant for food and supplies for our shelter. The amounts, the total at the end is the total amounts of all of the numbers that I had put in. And then on the second page is what we still need.
So we're using the bottom figure there, 88,000?
Yeah, that's what we're short in our budget.
So, and then I sent out a letter to all the counties, the county commissions that we service. And in the letter, I requested that consideration for $1,000 a month from each county for the 2020 fiscal year. We already talked with Benson County, they've approved and agreed to do that. I don't know that we've heard from the other counties yet, but that's kind of what we're coming to ask for, is consideration for $1,000 a month for 2020. And one of the issues that we run into with these grants is that most of these are reimbursables, so we need to have cash on hand in order to pay out these expenses, and then we have to submit it in for reimbursement from the grantors, so it's when we're really having a cash flow problem. Where if we have that $1,000 a month, then it would help us alleviate some of that, plus make up a portion of the shortfall that we're experiencing.
I gotta ask you this question, who does your grant writing?
I,
You do?
yeah.
Really?
It's a lot of grant writing.
You spend a lot of time at it.
Yeah,
A lot of
and I
grants there.
still,
You must be pretty good at it.
I don't know about that, but I learned fast once I got hired.
Okay.
But there's 3 full-time, 2 advocates and myself, so I still have to provide direct services as well.
Right.
Because when a victim comes in, we want to give them the best possible services. And if I'm the only one there in the office, I have to drop everything to help that victim.
You have nobody else on staff that wants to pick up on grant writing?
No, I don't believe an advocate would have time, you know.
What are we at right now for this year's grant? Budget? Yeah.
We just do 5,000.
So we could go to 12,000. I think that's reasonable.
You're gonna try to get Benson and all the other counties and,
Well,
law
Benson
enforcement.
has
They're all
already
your
agreed, yeah,
your list here.
yeah.
Wells, Grand Forks, Nelson, we're getting, trying to get all that.
Well, the ones that we serve 6 counties, which is Nelson, Benson, Ramsey, Eddy, Wells, and Towner. And then along with Spirit Lake Nation.
sure Spirit Lake's giving also, right?
No,
Or not?
Have you contacted them?
we have last year, but we intend to do it again this year.
With the elections that just happened, we were waiting for that to happen before, so we knew who we were trying to contact out there.
Have they had yet? They haven't had
Yep,
anybody?
yep.
Yeah. This would be something too that, you know, and my intention would be that annually we would review the need. So for 2021, we would resubmit another request for what we felt we would need for 2021. You know, that way, if we don't need as much, then we could, you know, because this is the first year we're doing it this way.
Okay,
And if we need to make some fluctuations and reduce it because we don't need as much as we asked for, then we would incorporate that.
well, we've always thought in the past it's been a very needed program, you know.
I think it'll be a, excuse me, a continuing problem. It's kind of like one of those feedback loops, where the more advocacy you do, the more people will realize the service is there, the more the service will be needed, because there's people out there now that need the service, they just don't know it's there.
Yeah.
And the more you tell them it's there, the more it'll be utilized, which is a good thing, but at the same time increases costs as you go along. There's probably far more usage that could be out there right now, we're just not seeing it. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's needed. I mean, it's needed.
Let me ask you this question, Molly, we're probably off page a little bit, but do you think there's more grants out there to be had? If you could make two of you like, you know, that are writing them, or?
Absolutely. I believe that SAFE is eligible for federal grants on the federal level, specifically for the ones that are geared towards tribes. And the reason I say that is because of our numbers that we serve, how many we serve Native Americans. We do have a large number, it's 70–80%. I believe that we can get them, however, it is, I've only done it once, and it took me 2 months to get one done. So it is a lot of work, and I actually just do not have the time to do it.
Once you do it, explain this to me, then once you do it, then you're, like the next year or whenever you have to reapply, do you use that paperwork to reapply?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Once you do it, once you went through it, then you're kind of in the door.
How, if I was to get a federal grant, they're a 3-year grant.
They're a 3-year grant.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I believe that we can get it. It's just to sit down and do the work, which is just gonna take a lot of time. And honestly, I just don't have it. And I would love to. I believe that it would benefit not only the tribe, but the whole community.
Sure. One of the reasons I'm asking is I'm on the Law Enforcement Center board, and Rob maybe has filled me in on his attempt here to write a grant and get funding for our siren project. And he's been kind of warning me how much of a job it is, you know. I mean, it really scares a lot of people off, doesn't it? I mean, the majority of people don't do it because they just get overwhelmed because of
Yeah, exactly.
the application process.
It's a huge time commitment, and grants are becoming more competitive.
Yeah.
So there's less money, more people needing it, so you really, yeah.
Goes through 2 months of work and then come up with absolutely nothing, it's not a lot of.
Oh, yeah.
Part of the deterrent.
You learn which ones to apply for, I'm sure,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Better than that.
Yeah, we've been fortunate this last year though, especially with the two that came from Department of Commerce, ESG and the homeless grant. I was very surprised at how much we got, but I'm very happy with it as well.
And that's a renewable one then?
Yeah.
It is. Once
Those are
it's
the
there, it stays there.
Yeah,
Are most of them that way or no?
no. I don't know if you've been watching the media the last couple of years regarding the homeless grant. They cut that quite a while, and I was surprised that we got it last year for 6,000, because it was so competitive and there wasn't that much money available. But we still got it, and then this year they did increase it, which I'm happy to say, and it was a nice increase for our grant as well, so.
We gotta thank you for your effort on those grant writings, because it takes a lot of patience, I'm sure.
Well, it's gotta be done, you know, and to, this state is so needed in this area. We don't have any other services from Grand Forks to Minot. We're right in the middle, and it's needed here.
Well, I think you can count on that from us, that we'll be acting on it later.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin?
I don't have a page number on my 23.
23 is
Where we start?
Is that the blacktop?
Yeah.
Okay. So on the blacktop fund, that's gonna be our paving thin lift overlay project on Ramsey 2. It's actually a $2.1 million project with 200,000 of engineering on top of that, but I split it between two different funds, so that's at 1.2 million for that. And that includes the 200,000 for engineering inspection. And along with that, we'll have about $340,000 of federal aid that is not in these totals. I mean, there'll be $340,000 available that I did not figure into my budget.
And we'll go to that project too.
Yeah.
That should cover it.
Yeah, and on the next budget, there's 850,000 coming out of there, and then together the two will cover it. Any question, sir? Is the next one the county road?
It is, correct.
Okay, that salaries include the administrative, so that would be Brent and myself. And I figured a 2% increase plus a step. And the fixed charges, that includes health insurance and vacation, that type of stuff. I see I have balances from last year left over. That's probably one place I could probably cut a little bit, but we never know what our health insurance is gonna be, so I figured it high. Capital outlay is, I have 100,000 to purchase equipment. Part of that is a new pickup, and then attachments for our mini excavator, like a trench packer, a plate packer, that type of stuff. Equipment rental for 40,000, and culverts that we resale, which actually is just an in and an out, but I need a line item budget to take it out of, so there's 100,000 in there for culverts for resale. Construction is gravel on the Ramsey County, Benson County line, south of Church's Ferry, that's 40,000. Gravel on 9B, that's up by Hamden, south of Hamden, then going east and west. That's 56,000. Mag water, I figured 10,000. Repairing soft spots on the gravel roads that like we've been doing with concrete, I figured 15,000. Overlay patches on paved roads, I figured 75,000. And then 850,000 to finish the thin lift overlay on Ramsey 2. And then there's a miscellaneous, is like projects that come up that we don't plan for. That's That's probably the smallest number I had for a long time, 175,000, but that's what I figured this year for. And also, with that budget, I have enough carryover that I won't be needing any mills to fund that one. If that makes sense. We get a little bit of money from Bladen Township roads, 360,000, and then my carryover is about, not quite 1.3 million. Any questions there? County road equipment, that's one we haven't used for years, so, is that the next page?
Yep, and then the next one's kind of great.
And county bridge. Okay. Again, I figured 15,000 for rental of equipment to put, we're gonna do 3 bridges next year. And then the culverts and material for those 3 bridges are, I figured 90,000. So that's 105,000. Questions there?
What 3 bridges have we done?
There's one up in Highland Center, just south of Ramsey 9. There's one on the county line with Towner on close to Ramsey County 10, west of Ramsey County 10. Where's the third? Oh, the third one's in Hamer Township. There's a wooden bridge that needs to come out.
You're gonna put culverts in?
Yep. All 3.
On all 3?
Yep.
Pretty rough, the bridges?
The one in Hamer is really rough. The one in, on the county line, there's something going on with the abutment wall, so we need to get it out of there. The deck isn't bad, but. And then the one up on Highland Center has just got a low sufficiency rating. It's probably not in that bad a shape. We're down to only a few of these short bridges left.
I was gonna say, every year we're chipping away at it, I mean,
Yeah.
we're slowly getting down and we won't have a whole lot left.
They had an incident over here, was it Grand Forks or Trail County?
Grand Forks.
Where the trailer went, or truck and trailer?
Yeah.
Do we need to, shut these down for loads, or they go empty, but
They could go empty.
should we shut them down so they can't be loaded, or is that gonna cause a problem, or?
Good question. I honestly think the people that live out there know, because they are posted for,
But it's the ones that don't live out there.
yeah. This one in Grand Forks was kind of a seasonal thing. They don't even plow it in the wintertime or anything. Supposedly the truck driver got lost, I don't know. So it might be just an excuse, but yeah, we don't have any left that are down to like, this one was at 6 tons, we don't have any that low. Our lowest one's probably like 20, 21 tons, something like that.
So they're pretty good, fair shape then,
Yeah, I mean, they won't take a full load, but they'll take an empty load real easy.
What do you think, Adam?
Excuse me, I don't have a problem keeping them open. I think the most important thing is that, kind of like we did up on that one in Morris, if we sign it on both ends so you know you're coming into a road that has a bridge on it that's a low rated, so you know if you got a semi not to get on the road if you don't know where the heck you're going.
Yeah.
Because that's when you run into the problem, and then you get guys that go, oh, well, cripes, I can't turn around, well, I'm gonna take a shot, you know, and then that's when you get into a problem with somebody going through. Yeah. As long as you know what's up there, then at least you don't have the veil of ignorance to say, well, I didn't know there wasn't anything up there, well, now what do I do, you know?
Should we sign it to that?
I mean, if we're not already, I mean, at a certain point, I mean, there's certain places maybe we
They're
should.
posted?
Yeah, I mean, they're posted, so I mean, it's just so we know it's, you know, the 6-ton bridge ahead or whatever, so people know, you know.
We do have some that are 5 ton, but they're inundated, they're under the water, so we can't even get across them.
Some of it comes down to length of bridge too.
Right.
You know, some of these bridges are little 30-foot bridges, and
Yeah.
you know, I mean, our chances there of something happening are probably fairly low compared to
In the picture, that one didn't look too long either,
So
so.
no,
It's the ones like Morris that were 90 feet,
You're right.
where you could get a whole doggone semi on it, drop the thing through. That's still scary. Either which way though, we don't want anybody to get hurt.
no, I totally agree, yeah.
So we'll look at it.
You think we're all right?
I do, yeah, like I say, the lowest one I have is 21, and then probably the next one's like 34 or something, but, and it's still not a full load, but, yeah. After these next three, then it's prairie trails that are not even used, maybe by pickups or deer hunters or something like that. We'll be all done with all the roads that we maintain, that we lay after next year.
In Grand Forks County, have like 200 out there?
Oh, yeah, over by the river, it gets
Huge
crazy.
number.
I mean, if you got like a 21 ton bridge and it's not that long, the whole truck's not gonna be on the whole bridge the whole time either.
Right.
I mean, so there's a good chance you'll probably only have, you know, if you got an 80,000 truck, half and half is only gonna be 20 ton across.
We got it signed for speed too, right?
They just say
Too fast.
reduce speed, they don't have a number, but, it's a-
Be smart about it. Yeah.
Go ahead.
highway tax is that the next page?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that first item is the salaries for all the workers, there's, in that, that's the 2% increase again of step. And in that number, there's 30,000 for overtime. Fixed charges, again, that could be a little high depending on what our health insurance is gonna cost. Unemployment, that's, we haven't had to pay any unemployment in the last 3 years, but that's like if somebody retires or quits and they file for unemployment, that's what comes out of there. Insurance includes building insurance, vehicle insurance, workers' comp, and drug and alcohol testing. Travel stayed the same as last year. Utilities, 54,000, that includes electricity, heat, phone, water, garbage, that type of stuff, including all the outlying shops. Office supplies is for like, office supplies in the office, and includes janitor supplies, postage, our clothing allowance, which is 3,000, and advertising, which is 5,000. Advertising for bids and that type of stuff. Gas, oil, and fuel. I did hear that fuel prices are supposed to go up, so I raised that up to 138,000. It's 120,000 for diesel and 18,000 for gas. Supplies and material includes any gravel that we buy, sand, riprap, cutting edges, snow blade cutting edges, filters, tires. Road oil is 30,000, like for crack sealing. Cold mix and hot mix, antifreeze and engine oil is 20,000. Signs and posts is 15,000, and then shop supplies and tools is 18,000. Repairs and maintenance is 40,000, that's 20,000 for repairs and 20,000 for parts. Capital outlay is where I have, this highway tax fund is not generated by mills either, it comes from our sale of diesel or tax, from sale of fuel and also driver's license registration. But 730,000 for the, 700,000 of that is purchase 3 new motor graders. And then 30,000 is for building maintenance. questions there.
Are you rotating out of 3 graders, or are you adding fleet?
No, we'll trade 3 off. with the 3.
Gotcha.
So, how old are these ones?
They're 7 years.
7 years,
Yep, we've bought 7 years of warranty, and the warranty will be up, so.
about $7,000-8,000.
75, 8, yep.
I was gonna ask the question of, is there an advantage to buying 3 at a time? Do we get like a better deal, or,
I don't know.
I mean, would it, I mean, obviously the warranties are up, so then it kind of gets you up against the wall, because you're gonna have to take a chance without a warranty, but would it make more sense since we have 7-year warranties and 6 blades that we buy 1 per year instead of buying 3 in a shot?
Sure, it would help the budget, but,
I mean, but then we'd have to go without warranty for a couple of years to take the chances.
Yeah.
Right, set it up the first time around. I mean, because once you did that, all the
Yeah, then
warranties would be rolling and be fine.
Assuming that warranties are gonna continue to be 7 years too, I mean, they may go to 5 or something, you never know how things are gonna work.
I think the thought with that, when they started that, was then you have 3 that are the same instead of having different parts.
That's a good point too, I mean, yeah, maintenance issues, I mean, from that standpoint, I can go with that. It's like having 6 different tractors on the farm, you gotta look at.
You know, different filters.
Generally, the drivers, once we send a new one out to them, that one stays there
Yep,
for the period of time, pretty much.
you know, it stays at that shop forever. Once in a while, if one breaks down, they borrow it out, but usually the man that's running that machine goes and runs it, or the other one broke down.
You don't think they give us a break when we buy 3?
No, they don't.
No break, no deals anywhere.
We get a really good government discount. If we were a private contractor buying it, it'd be probably another 300,000 on top of that.
I guess this is what it is, huh?
Any other thoughts on that?
No, I mean, yeah, I'm okay with it, I just wanted to ask the question because I've kind of been thinking about it, but I can understand the concept of, you know, wanting similar ones, you have maintenance is more streamlined. I mean, you're gonna end up paying for them at one point in time or the other, it's just a matter of, you're gonna pay for them all in one shot, or you're gonna pay for them once a year.
Right,
I mean, either which way, the money's coming from someplace.
yeah.
Other counties are doing it this way, or?
A lot of them are doing 1 year, but, you know, that's their problem, is they got 5 different models out there that they're keeping inventory for.
Right.
Yeah.
They change them quite a bit every year, graders?
Not a lot, but like with the engines, interior, the emissions and stuff like that, and then the filters all change. And that's the thing that you stock the most.
Right.
Well, I'm sure every model year there's changes. I mean, that's just how it is with any kind of equipment like that. They realize something's a little bit functionally bad, and then they make a little change here and a little change there. Part numbers change.
With Caterpillar in town, we don't have to stock near as many items, but like with the John Deere's, we need a filter right away. We
They got,
can't
most of the time they have it ready in Grand Forks, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
get it the next day. But the green tractors, they usually don't stock the stuff we need for the yellow ones.
Yeah, so not a lot of crossover.
Okay.
And that account, there's a pretty good surplus in there. And of course, that's all generated from highway tax. The last one is that,
County road program, yeah.
okay, that is our chip seal program. And next year we'll be chip sealing Ramsey 3 from state 17 all the way down to, Pole 2, like 20 miles. So it's $425,000 for that, and then the striping is $125,000, and the chips themselves are $58,000. It's one of our bigger years, so it's one of our bigger budgets as far as how many miles we're doing. so.
I'm gonna have to look out for chip sealing next year then.
What roads are we doing?
All of 3 from 17 down to Old 2. My stretch.
Yours?
Yeah,
So they don't, they use it.
what's, my next page is flood damage.
37, yeah.
So I just threw numbers in there, quite honestly, I don't anticipate using anything as far as flood money. But these are funds that we could use for whatever. They don't limit us to what we can use them for. They were originally set up for administrative work.
So you have enough carryover for everything that you're requesting in this budget, is that right?
Except for the or the blacktop fund, which is 1.2 million.
Oh, sure, yeah, that's on the next page.
That's,
Oh, sorry.
that was the first one we talked about.
So like on the flood damage, like some of these are closed out, right?
Yeah.
Which ones on these are closed out then? That the FEMA doesn't have, there won't be any more claims against the fund.
All the way up to, nine has been closed out, but not 10.
Okay. So the rest of like 10, 11, 13, there's still the option that there could be some claims out there still from townships possibly.
But yeah, it would be a freak deal.
Yeah, pretty slim, but it's, where we should keep funds there. But I mean, is there any benefit to just saying, let's close out like the 2009 fund and roll those dollars over into another account?
No, well, yeah, I mean, we could use it.
I mean, there's no reason for it to sit there anymore. So we can offset the budget with that 97,000 and your portion of it. Get a couple mills down at least,
Yeah,
or a mill per quarter or whatever.
that's a great idea.
That'd be all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, why sit it there?
Right.
I mean, even if we just don't even tax against it, just roll it over to the admin budget or something, just so it's not sitting in there anymore. It doesn't make a lot of sense to have it sitting there for no reason, if there's not gonna be a claim against it.
There'd be no need to use those funds.
Not 9. I actually 10 and 11 either, but that could be a freak deal. We have to hang on to it for 3 years, and we're not to the 3 years yet.
Yeah, and this is the money that essentially, the leftover that we were paid to administer the program.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's our money anyway, so we
Yep.
might as well utilize it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, am I correct in assuming then that if 9 is free now, 10 will be free next year, is that how the way it works, or is it?
21. Both 10 and 11 are 2021.
Okay, so we'll be able to move both of those funds next year's budget cycle?
Yeah, it all depends on when FEMA put it in and
Yeah,
then
it's
they
April,
label it
June.
back and, yeah,
April and June, so you might want to figure 22.
it's complicated.
I think that's all I have. The cemetery is in there somewhere, but that stayed the same as last year.
Did you ever get a bid on a mower for it?
And I opened it today at 1 o'clock. Lawnmower, you mean?
Yeah, for the cemetery lawn mower you were looking at.
Yep. I got quite a few bids, probably 7 bids already, so we should get a pretty good price.
That's good.
Any other questions for Kevin?
Can I ask a non-budget question? Did we ever do anything with that bridge south of Church's Ferry, get it inspected, because I see they're going around it again?
No, and I was gonna talk.
And the farmers are gonna want that bridge area pretty quick.
It's, according to the state, it should be closed.
Can we get somebody to inspect it
They have to.
before the fall starts, because they're gonna start using it again?
I talked to Brian Fuchs in Bismarck, and there's some dive team that come in and do it for $10,000. And Benson's got one, and Towner's got one. And we'd be responsible for the $10,000.
So we either have to pay $10,000 or we should just take the bridge out.
No, we could close it.
But I mean, it's not doing anything, that's what I'm saying. There's no sense in having it there if we don't have it open. How about our dive team from search and rescue?
Nope, they have to be certified bridge inspectors, that's what Brian said.
How old is the bridge now?
How old?
Would you guess?
I think the water board put that in probably 80s, 90s, early 90s maybe. Yeah.
Relatively not.
So they put it in and then the water took it out, huh? Jeez.
That, further south down there in Benson County, the Ramsey Road Bridge, they wanna get that one open pretty bad. And it's like a 35-mile detour or something like that for the farmers. And so Benson County talked to me about having these done, but we thought maybe we could save money by doing 2 or 3 of them, and it didn't save much, like maybe $1,000 for each one.
Like motor graders, huh?
Yeah.
Go on.
So is this bridge we're talking about on ours, is that it's concrete deck and
Yep,
concrete like side?
it's got concrete sides.
Okay, so it's like a bell guard or something like that, kind of looks
Yeah.
like that.
It's got hollow, this one's got hollow beams, and that's the concern, that the water got inside those hollow beams and expanded. I mean, it's not supposed to, but who knows, you know?
Well, yeah, nobody designs a bridge with the idea it's gonna sit underwater for 25 years, so you don't really know what happened to it.
So I mean,
How many people utilize it regularly?
I think if it was open, a lot of them would, because now they got their little crossroads from the Benson County line into Benson County. They got those first 2 going to the west, both those bridges are open now. Well, they're not bridges, they put in culverts, I guess.
Their township culverts in there? No.
I would assume the one by the church is a township.
it's a township road, but I'm almost positive it's a county bridge.
Well, there's no bridge, they put in culverts.
So it must be county then.
Yeah, they're still responsible for the culverts. I assume, I don't know, I mean, I don't know if Benson works. It's only like a 2 or maybe a 3-mile detour for us, for that. Can't be much over 2, so.
But I gotta think in another year or 2, they're gonna start screaming to go the rest of the way south from that bridge.
Right,
I mean, you could probably drive it right now and pick up it,
right.
but I mean,
4-wheeler easy,
yeah. I just get a lot of questions over there on it, and you know, I go and somebody says something, and it's like, well, they're supposed to get somebody to inspect it, so I guess kind of my question is, do you plan to get somebody to inspect it, or?
It's up to you guys if you want to spend $1,000.
Or do we, I need to barricade that road big, because there was a pickup on it yesterday sitting on it.
Yeah, we just need to keep those barricades in place, and it's rough, I mean, they,
Well,
as fast as you put them up, they.
you're gonna have to put posts in the ground, because right now, the signs are laying in the ditch again.
Right,
Is Benson gonna inspect theirs or not?
I hadn't heard, he was gonna run it by his commissioners, but I didn't know how that went. But like I said, he's got a 30-some mile detour, which is huge, so.
Well, we've got essentially 3 options. We can barricade it, we can pay the dive team, or we can barricade it and wait until we can have a normal
Right.
crew inspect it.
Yeah.
So when is the option of the normal crew inspecting it to save the money an option? Does the water have to go down more, essentially?
Lake would have to go down probably 2-3 feet, roughly.
So in other words, we either wait 3 feet or we pay the money to get it taken care of, because otherwise why have a bridge if you can't use the bridge?
Well, not just wait 3 feet, wait 3 feet, pay to barricade it. Right, I mean.
Yeah, and if I have barricades,
That's too,
trying to keep barricades up isn't free either, driving out there every doggone day trying to keep stuff down.
And, you know, if you put posts out there and somebody hits the post, then you're liable.
Yeah, you got a liability issue, because you're not supposed to have permanent things across the road, well, permanent posts or whatever across the section line.
Maybe we should have Kevin just contact Benson County and see where they're going.
I'll do that.
If they're gonna bring the dive team in, I suppose, I don't know how many people you think use it? I mean, would use it? I mean, that are local.
There's
maybe
a handful.
5 to 10 cars
Yeah,
a day.
there's a handful of farmers that definitely would use it to get access.
Not that many. And then the short detour, you know, that's,
It's not a bus route,
no,
mail route, they wouldn't use it,
just farm activities,
just get in the field.
hunters, that type, yeah.
During deer hunt season, I think I put it up every day.
Yeah.
I
I'll
go
bet
by,
you put it up
it'd
every
be down, I put it up, I go by, it'd be down, every single day.
Yeah, you could probably do that year round.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you could, I'm sure you could. I've always wondered what all those people are doing down there. I mean, there's nothing down there.
Right.
You know, you go south of the bridge, other than the intersection where you turn to go to the cemetery, there's nothing there.
There's a cemetery,
Well, there's access on the other side to the cemetery.
Where exactly are we talking about? I'm sorry, I was
Just straight south of Church's Ferry,
Up there, we're gonna look at it.
where Highway 281 comes down,
okay.
it just keeps straight going.
I think it would be beneficial to have, talk to Benson County, see what their plans are,
right,
and then we'll talk about it at the next meeting.
yeah, we don't wanna go ahead and
Yeah.
close it or go the other way and, hire this outfit, and I can find out what their plan is. I'm sure it's Benson County people using it too, right? Some,
Yeah.
Yeah.
For farm access, yeah.
yeah, let's see what their plan is. Try to keep it similar and
There's had some, damage to the guardrails also that they'll have to fix before they open it, but same situation, they had the hollow beams underneath theirs.
they have the same, bridges aren't that old, but the hollow beams are under there.
Right.
Is it the same bridge, just they have rails instead of cement?
I would have to look, I honestly don't know.
Were these hollow beams cheaper than I-beams at the time then, or that's probably it?
More durable, they would last forever, I
Oh,
mean,
really?
steel would rust out and that kind of stuff, but, yeah,
Our last I-beams.
oh yeah. Concrete, it's hollow concrete.
Oh, hollow concrete.
Yeah, it's like press type stuff that you
Mhm.
bring in from a press factory.
I thought they were hollow steel, but they're,
Well, you'd never guess that bridge was that old by looking at it. I mean, the bridge itself looks
Yeah.
in perfect condition,
yeah,
so.
there was that water getting in there.
That's why everybody's like, it looks great, let's drive on it.
It might
The
not.
guy in Grand Forks County thought that too, didn't he? Looks great, let's drive across that.
Well, and that's
That was
kind
pretty
of
rough,
where,
that bridge.
that's kind of where one of my concerns comes from the standpoint of, I guess if we expect it and it's not good, we're still gonna have to fight with keeping signs up. But at the end of the day, if we don't know if it's good or bad, people are gonna go on it regardless of what we do. So it would be good to at least know what we're dealing with.
Right.
So we could say, hey, this is safe and take the signs down, and if it's not, then we can at least come up with a plan. Because whatever we do, people are, like you said, people are gonna go on it.
Yeah.
If it's out of the water, somebody's gonna find a way to get on it, we know that. I mean, that's
Well, there's
just like
another-
ice fishing season, people always find a way to find the water. It's just a guarantee.
Well, there's another bridge that's in Benson County over there too, yeah. I mean, you gotta ride a goat trail to get down it, but there's cars parked on it.
There was 5-6 feet of water, I don't know if I've asked you this question before, there was 5-6 feet of water on top of this bridge at one time?
At one time, maybe two and a
2
half,
feet?
yeah.
That'd be enough. Yeah, it seeped in there,
The beams are actually still underwater.
they are,
Yeah.
that's why you need to dive deep.
Yeah.
She already twisted my arm about it.
You had to get a big one.
Yeah, see what you can do, I guess, Kevin.
Yeah, I'll get ahold of Benson County.
Any other questions on this? On the budget, you got everything in, or
That's all I have, yeah.
you may have questions for Kevin? Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy, you can have us.
I'm gonna go to page 2. There's that guardian ad litem line item that we haven't paid anything out for, well, It's been longer than 3 years. So I just took that figure out. There's no need to budget for it. Okay, so then we go to page 4. And I took for part-time help, I dropped it from 10,000 down to 8. Left everything else. Let me see. 11. Workers' comp I had to change because we got an email that there would be a slight increase for next year, so I bumped it up to 16,000. And there weren't any changes to that. Page 13. The only increase I did was to cover, the increase in liability insurance.
Now, why did our liability insurance go up so much?
Because we had a few too many crashes. We had a few too many, yeah.
We're a higher risk than we have been in the past.
He's over there covering his eyes, yeah. Few too many deer, I think.
I don't think it was us.
Yeah.
We gotta eat a few of them, I guess.
Yeah,
We had one or two.
right?
Stuff happens, that's why you got insurance.
So I just upped that to cover. I upped postage to, next year's election year. I put my election budget back up to 40,000 to cover.
With, so I shouldn't be doing with the new election equipment and the electronic poll books and all that kind of stuff, are we still expecting to have the same amount of people working the election? I mean, because, the poll books and stuff are still gonna need to be manned and everything like that, obviously, so I'm just kind of curious if it's gonna save any
Good question.
labor, if it's gonna be
Sure.
similar.
Want to be prepared,
Or maybe the technology needs to have that more.
Maybe not so much the November election, which is the busier, but June we probably would, I don't think that we would need as many. I just kind of, actually I base it off of what measures are on there,
Oh, yeah.
what the measures are.
Yeah, if there's a bunch of measures in June that are gonna be more popular,
You
you
know.
know you're gonna get more foot traffic.
Especially
it
if
doesn't
it's,
look like it.
Yeah. That doesn't
Yeah.
look like June, especially would be quiet. The other question I would have in my train of thought then is, I just lost it again now.
I think it's gonna simplify.
Oh, is the Secretary of State gonna have training sessions for the staff we're gonna have using the e-poll books and all this, since it's all new technology? I would assume so. Okay, good.
Yeah, well, actually, training for us will be in the fall. And the Secretary of State is actually going to travel
Okay, so
and do regional, and then we're always the point of contact to have a regional meeting here, and then surrounding counties will travel here instead of.
That's good to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's gonna be
It works
pretty good change
yeah.
with all this new technology, all the new equipment technology and stuff.
And I think the new stuff is they're promoting to, so that all the staff can, you know, and not really have your office closed. So that have staff one day and then have it again the next, you know, so you can alternate. So you can alternate staff, but, and I think the new stuff should be coming in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I saw,
The old stuff is already gone.
I saw a news story that the Secretary of State already received everything, I think, and they were gonna
Yeah,
start
they're doing
divvying it out.
test runs and making sure everything is good. Okay, then we'll go to, since I bypassed you on your budget, the change. Or just bypass it.
Right.
Huh?
We can,
The change that we
Yeah.
talked about with his budget, with
Yeah.
the sheriff's budget.
cover it, go ahead.
We only amended the one line item,
Yeah, yeah.
and I can
You can,
explain it if you want.
yeah,
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, with the task force, we basically did some figuring for Ramsey County to take over the one position full-time that we're already paying half-time for. So we would fund that full-time position, because of the amount of work we're doing here. Basically, so we're currently at 40,000, which is what my budget was when we proposed it, and now we've amended that to, I think we increased it to 55, correct?
Yep.
When that would allow us to pay that salary full-time for the individual that we are already paying half-time for, which we're already paying healthcare and all the other amenities. And the long-term goal of this is to have the other counties pay for their own position, so we could add a staff member to the task force and help it grow, and so they have enough manpower. As you heard the last time with Carrie was here, I mean, we're busy. So that's what we did, that's the only amendment we made in mine, was we increased it from 40 to 55,000 to take over that full-time, that position full-time.
I know the last meeting we talked about it extensively, and I really believe that we need to, you know,
They are not for lack of work.
So the city will pay for one,
City has one full-time, we'll have one full-time, and then we're working with the other 4 counties so they would fund the third one on their own, and we'd be done. I mean, unless we increase again, but
yeah, like you said, hopefully, if we add a third, they'll get more contact.
they're gonna get more services out in the other, well, like Benson County is an issue, Towner County's an issue. Cavalier and Nelson are the other 2 members, not so much yet, but, I mean, it's coming. It's, you know, Cavalier's having more, and Nelson County's having, of course, in between us and Grand Forks, there's a lot of traffic and a lot of, but that's kind of the work we're trying to get, is to get them to get a third one, because we do need the help.
I thought for 15 would,
And Candy and I worked out the numbers, and that's kind of a pretty decent figure to.
we figured a little bit of overtime
A
in there.
little bit, but not, you know, but then again, some of the other counties, what they put there to be members can probably help out with a little bit of that too, and we'll still have to work out the details with the city as far as repayment of those kind of funds, you know, if there are any excessive ones that we need to do, but it's completely doable, and I think it should be done. I mean, it'd be a good step forward for us.
I know if we had administrators sitting in the front row from the schools, I know what they'd say. You know, help us. And after the Starkweather incident.
Well, all the work was done in Starkweather too, was all part of that, you know, was all, yeah, you know, task force was right there with us and working the other ends of it, so we've had quite a few large things happening even just this year,
Right.
you know, so it's, I think it's well worth the funding.
More resistance you put up, the less they hang around.
So that was the only amendment we made to my budget, so.
Okay.
So if the other counties don't do this, then what?
They'll just have to get services when they get I mean, we're gonna go where the work is. They'll still get, I mean, if they got time to go, you know, they'll still go do their things like they normally do, but they might have to rely a little more on maybe the BCI to do it, or, you know, instead of the task force. Like right now with Spirit Lake Nation, we're kinda trying to, we would be overwhelmed if we continued to, if we joined with them, just because of the sheer amount of work that needs to be done. And we've been in discussions with
some federal agencies to come help us, but that's still in the works. Just to even tackle what's going on the other side of the lake. I mean, it's huge, and we would be so inundated, so we're just trying to keep us, cover our area as best we can, and we're still busy. And we still work with them, but we just can't do it completely.
Everybody think they're all right with it?
I think it's fine, yeah.
Thank you.
Carry on, Andy.
Page 17.
I think that's just the grant for the center thing.
Nothing, I didn't change anything.
You get a sticker on.
I didn't.
That's pretty much it.
It's all stayed the same. Page 18. I don't have, I'm still waiting figures from Blue Cross. Because now with the social service zone bringing on additional employees, I have to, probably on your desk.
I don't know. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Got too many papers over here. We got 218s.
We do it to 18.
Yeah,
Okay.
the other one should have been.
Okay. Now I know what I'm looking at. Alright.
Yeah, so I have to gather information to provide to Blue Cross, which I've already gotten from Benson County, the employees that will be coming over, and now I'm waiting for Rolette County to provide me information so that we can get figures from Blue Cross for adding an additional 40 plus employees.
So we're kinda up in the air on our total and everything,
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
But it should, it's covered by the state, I mean,
Yeah, it's
it's just
Right.
gonna be in and
Just
out.
hire a little bit.
Yeah.
I think.
But I mean, as far as me, like knowing what kind of an increase,
Yeah, we can.
even for us, I
Yeah, you haven't
have
gotten
no
anything
idea.
back from Blue Cross.
No
Yeah,
idea.
the only additional incurrence might be if the indirect cost formula doesn't cover enough payback for the amount of work we're gonna take on it, assuming that's how it works. And
Mhm.
I guess I can just make note, and we'll probably, Rhonda was gonna hopefully come in at the next meeting and talk about it, that Rolette County, their commission passed, or voted to start talks with us. So Rhonda will come in and visit with us on this.
And I did add it to the agenda for,
So
for the next.
we can talk
so-
about it then, it's not like it's a huge hurry, but at the same time, we gotta determine where we're going, so.
Because, I put it out there to Blue Cross, I need a figure by Friday, so.
Well, it's maybe by adding people, though.
Might go down.
Insurance has never gone down.
So- Yeah, the county building improvements, that's the account that Roger, does his, takes his stuff out of. You know, if we have to do elevator or, different things. Oh, page 9. I put a breakdown of different items that are paid out of the miscellaneous general. The city again is asking for $10,000 for the recycling.
We have given them one.
We only give them 5. I did put in, the safe as, the 12,000. We give 10,000 to the Lake Region Community Shelter.
Suppose this might be the right time to ask the question of the commission if we're gonna try to put the home rule charge And if so, we might need to put $2,000 or so in that budget.
That's why I've left it blank. You know,
Any responses to that question from Lucas?
also where we sit with planning and zoning.
Do you think that's sufficient, or you want?
I mean, I don't know what's left, I don't, price-wise, you know,
Meetings and printing costs
Yeah, so that should cover it.
should cover.
well, and we've only spent $55 out of there for this year.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know that I would need to put $12,000.
What does the 10,000 the city asks for, you give them 5, what do we get for the recycling? We can,
It's so that county residents can take their recycling to,
yeah, but just
Yeah.
strictly the recycling? Cause I remember, was it about a month ago, too many people were bringing grass or something like that?
Well, I think that's also including grass clippings, if you look at Terry's
Is it?
letter.
Where's
Um,
the letter at, I guess,
It's in the book,
many people from outside the city use the center not only for recycling, but also for grass clippings and tree trimmings.
you know, service people appreciate, hopefully we can continue. Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada.
I'm just trying to recall, I remember hearing them say something on, that apparently people from outside the city weren't supposed to be using it for grass, because they were getting too much or something like that. So what are we paying for?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm fine with helping with recycling, because I think recycling is worthwhile,
Right,
but,
I thought it was plastics, and that's what I assumed it was, and maybe
Yeah.
it isn't.
that's, well, when I heard, I can't remember when I heard it, when I heard it, I thought, well,
Cardboard.
yeah, on Permian, we just use, it's for access to
Yeah.
bringing in your plastics and your cardboards and things like that, I think that's good.
And all that's down there by the
Yeah.
railroad, right?
But I mean, if there are a lot of people from outside of town using it for other uses, I mean, I don't know. I guess I've never brought my grass clippings in.
See, and I kinda have a hard time buying that, you know, people from out of that little jurisdiction, Webster, are hauling their leaves and their tree branches here.
I would venture not, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's like the people who live around the lake and freeze on in Lakewood and things like that, maybe where you don't have places you can put those things or hauling them in. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
I'm sure some of those people that burn barrel.
Well, I'm sure some of them do too, but I'm just saying, I'm guessing some of them probably find a way to haul it in.
But we have how many, just in town, how many, like lawn trimming?
Well, that's huge. I mean,
Companies.
the lawnmower
Yeah.
people, the amount of debris.
Yeah.
Cause I use that, and I, oh my gosh.
Well,
I
that's
know how the
another-
rules are set, and yes, they're allowed, because, you know, you're mowing Lucas's grass and your grass, which might end up there anyhow.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there's truckloads come in there daily from some of those guys.
I believe that they do a lot of work.
You think 10's too much, Adam, is that kind of what you're thinking?
No, I'm just asking the question, I mean, because we've had 5 in the past, so they're asking for an increase to get
It's
to that
double,
10.
yeah.
They have for the last 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind helping out, I mean, and I think it's worthwhile, especially with the age we're in, where everybody buys something in a box from Amazon, and everybody's got so doggone much cardboard. It's not a bad idea to recycle it, if you have a chance to recycle it. But, and I understand that, you know, the city can't really keep track of who's, I mean, they just know it's being utilized, obviously, from more people that are probably in town. There's no way to know who's dumping what up
no idea. One day you go by, there's a mountain there, the next day it's gone.
Wonder if they take it to the inert.
Say, you can make a good compost pile. It's fertilizer.
This stuff where people can't read, no bags in the.
Right.
It's unbelievable what you find over there. I mean, even in the cardboard, you'll find mattresses and it's unbelievable.
That's what I mean though, it's that there's people that go up there and use it for its not intended
Oh.
purpose, because they don't wanna put a mattress out, but
Yeah,
it's like, well, you can get rid of that stuff, clean out week or whatever, but they don't wanna wait, they don't wanna store it.
just the other day, I put some branches over there. There was a dryer sitting there. What does that have to do with tree
Maybe it
branches?
fell out of the tree.
Recycled dryer. Oh, Lord. Maybe it was in the tree.
Are we gonna stay with 10 or are we gonna go back to 5? Everybody all right with 10?
Leave it,
That's okay with that.
leave it at 10 for now, and then we can go backwards if we
We're gonna
want.
create an argument on this, so you
No.
had an argument yesterday with a little one anyway.
It's, pick your spots, we'll put that what you're telling
We'll
us.
talk about that later, but, yeah, it was a little one. Go ahead, Candy.
So, planning and zoning, do I stay at 12 or do you want me to,
Yeah, that's fine. Figure that out.
and then your home rule?
What do you wanna do there? I didn't get no answers on that home rule question.
Well, I mean, it probably goes without saying that I'm in favor of it. I mean, it lost by 45 votes. To me, that's a rounding error, even in a county like this. And I think if you were to go through the steps again, you've already got the document, it's ready to go. I think you can spend more time and energy on, explaining what the options are to the people. Which is one of the things that, although we tried, I think we could double down and try again. But I don't think you'd need more than $1,000 or $2,000 in that budget if you were going that direction.
Just get it back to 2, is that what you're thinking, or 5, I mean?
I mean, you could put 5, but we only spent 1.
Yeah, we only spent 1,000.
And that was doing all of the work, to actually write a charter.
Should we?
Would you change anything out of the charter?
Well, if I'm remembering my century code right, which I may not be, once you re-empower a charter committee, they can change whatever they want, or leave it. So once
It's
you.
just like you're starting fresh again.
Yeah, except the only difference is you're starting fresh, but you had a document that was written last year. So it's not so out of date.
You just have to, maybe a couple meetings would do it?
Yeah, I mean, that and I
Yeah, I
think
would-
trying to go out and get out in front of the public again, and explaining what it's for.
Yeah.
Because the thing that I came across over and over and over again, and maybe other people had different experiences with it, but every time that I explained what it was, nobody ever left it feeling strongly opposed to it, after listening to the discussion. It was when they felt like they knew something that wasn't what was in the document, wasn't what it was intended for, that they were opposed.
So you want to maybe go back up to 6 or something with it, or, so the balance, we have 6 in there? And 5 enough?
I think you just put
Okay.
1,000 or 2,000 in it, and then we can make the determination later if it's something we wanna go forward with, and if not, we've got $2,000 that goes to the general fund.
Let's do that.
I think that's reasonable.
I agree with that.
I mean, the cost of, we can't, if you're gonna do it, you can't run a campaign, you can't run ads, so there's really no cost with it. The whole cost of it last time was essentially nobody
Yeah, but
paid for the
paid.
meetings either, I think we paid mileage maybe, we didn't even pay mileage. So there
That
was,
was-
it
that
was
was-
basically advertising costs, running it in the paper,
Yeah.
publishing, and then publishing the fact we had public meetings. That whole $1,000 is basically the journal guy.
Which you'd want to do again, so.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to do again, so put a couple thousand in, that should be plenty to cover publication costs. And if we're gonna go out and do it again, it's just a matter of boots on the ground and talking to people.
Okay, zoning and planning, or planning and zoning, what do you want to do there?
I can leave it at 12.
We've used 33.
Yeah, we haven't hardly used anything this year. But last year we used 86, and before that we used 95.
Okay, leave it as long.
That's the emergency fund expense, I just left that 50,000. That is make payment on our bond. Covered. 40, it's the emergency management budget. There's nothing, well, I don't have any blue cross figures, so I can't do fixed charges, but, we, based on our advertisement, we just, I put like the highest, like the high end of it.
Go for salary?
Mhm.
Because I don't have anything filled in.
Yeah.
So what would that be then?
53,472.
And that's the high end if somebody
That's
had
the
all
high-
the
that's the
experience
high
and
end.
everything.
And it's, so fixed charges, that'd be,
That's
that'd be insurance, we don't know.
insurance, and I don't know that yet.
This is the one problem with, I understand why the legislature pushed up our budgeting by a month, but that's one of the problems with, it's really tough to get insurance projections 6 months out on cost. It's kind of like shooting at the dark.
And I don't know if that's where you wanna talk about,
Well, we talk about it now, yes.
you know,
Michael Kennedy put it on the emergency manager's position. What, 2 weeks ago, we had the Jamestown 911 person up here, his name is Jerry Berquist. And he gave a very good presentation to the Law Enforcement Center Board about 911, how they do it in Stutsman County. And to start off the presentation, he told us he was 80% 911 and he's the coordinator. And I have a budget here and we're trying to copy that somewhat. I mean, do it the way they're doing it down there on the 911. We need 80% 911, 20% emergency manager in Stutsman County. And their population is twice of what we have. I can't get over the fact, why do we need a full-time emergency manager when they're using one 20%?
What's the number of disasters that they've had over the last 20 years?
I don't know how many disasters they've had, but
Well, we had 19 presidential disaster declarations in 17 years.
yes.
And so a lot of that falls on that one position. And so, and I think regardless of the population that you have, it's the number of hazards that you have within your community that you've identified, potential hazards. And, you know, Jerry may not have as many. And the other thing is Jerry's been doing it for, 25 years or better. So he's very good at what he's doing. He's very
Yes,
good
it
at-
sounded like it in the presentation he gave us.
So, hey, and I don't know if Jerry has any administrative help on that side of things. But
No, I didn't believe he had any help, did he?
Yeah,
He had the lieutenant in the 911.
Yeah, he had assistance, I know on the 911 side, I don't know on the.
I don't believe he was anything on emergency manager. You know, I know half the salary is state, but that's the people's money too that we're spending, so. I just don't believe we need a half-time emergency manager, or a full-time one, I should say. I think we should combine it. He does a lot of grant writing. He told us about his grant writing. And he spends a lot of time on that, doesn't he, Rob? And he sounded like he was quite successful with it. they're funding their 911. I don't think he used a percentage, did he?
No.
But I mean, they're getting grant money for running their 911, they get the grant money for emergency management. So he's doing a lot of that too. But I firm believer that emergency manager should be able to write a lot of grants. That position should be able to do that. You know, if we wanna have an emergency manager, half emergency manager and half grant writing. I mean,
Where,
it takes,
are we still putting floodplain with it then too? So it'd be floodplain, emergency manager and grant writer?
possibly.
I'm not,
We had an emergency manager in a floodplain, our last person was that.
right, I know that, but I'm just saying that if you're adding another sort of set of responsibility, I'm just curious if you were thinking about doing something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see why that wouldn't work either, but I think we should definitely put the emergency manager in this position under a department head. We shouldn't have them under their own department. They should have some guidance from a department head that's here.
Out of curiosity, you know, that, I think that raises a good point, because if there are no emergencies declared, right, like on an average day, everything's smooth sailing, relatively speaking, what is the workload? Whereas, so what I like about what you just mentioned is grant writing is something you can put on hold. You know, if something comes up, you can put that on hold, but if there's nothing else going on, absolutely, be writing grants for everything. I don't mind that idea at all. Unless there's something that I'm missing that's wildly important in day-to-day operation of that position.
I want to use that at the law enforcement center. I learned more about 911 there in 20 minutes to half an hour in his presentation than I've learned since I've been on the board. And I learned a lot about emergency manager too. Just the fact that, you know, he's so experienced. I mean, and he's willing to share. I mean, he had a lot of information, and wish we'd had more time that day. Our meeting ended up lasting over 3 hours, but the knowledge is out there on how to write these grants and get hold of money. And he said they fund both the emergency manager and 911 substantially with grants. So how would we do it, Crystal, if we decided to change the job title here? Would we re-advertise?
Well, grant work was in the advertisement as
It
one.
was.
Yeah, as one of the minimum qualifications. I'd have to look at the job description to see what it specifies in there for grant work.
Yeah.
Cause that was posted with the job position, but.
Because when we posted the position, it didn't say percentages of time we expect somebody to do something, it's just these are what's required of the job.
Actually in the job description, it did have the
Oh,
percentage.
it did have percentages.
Yeah. And there was some candidates in there that had the grant writing experience.
There is candidates that have some grant writing, okay. Okay, we could just carry forward then with interviews and pick out who we want to interview and go from there. What do you think, Adam?
Well, I'm wrapping my head around this, so there's, essentially, are we saying we want to turn this position into, it's still gonna be emergency manager on floodplain management, but we want to put a focus on writing grants for other departments within the county as well? And we'll just use them as a grant writer essentially on their time when they don't have emergency management stuff to do.
Yeah.
And utilize them for everybody? Or are we talking, trying to combo it with 911?
No, I wouldn't say combo.
You're just,
No.
essentially what you're saying is their time, they don't necessarily need 100% time doing emergency management. You think that
Correct.
grant writing is a.
I think we
is
can
a-
all agree with
something
that.
we need to
In the
utilize.
case that there's not an emergency, right, I mean, if I think there's a real emergency, you know, to Jeff's point, I can imagine that taking a full,
Yeah.
you know, all full-time,
Yeah.
but you never know when that's gonna happen. If you can give them something that can be worked on and paused when need be, you know, grant writing is exactly that.
I think that's just, I mean, it's basically, we're just talking the same job, but just stressing different aspects of it then,
Right.
essentially.
Which may just be something
I
that we
mean,
ask in an interview.
I don't think, I think, from this, from the aspect of, I thought for a while we should have a grant writer.
Yeah,
I mean, even a half-time grant writer that you could fund, because I mean, if you have a good grant writer that knows what they're doing, they pay for themselves many times over.
yeah, there's no question.
But it's getting the right person, somebody that has experience, somebody that knows what they're doing. And it's tedious, it takes the right kind of person that wants to go through all of that too. I mean, it's not an easy task.
Sounds like we should get the safe off, like I heard.
Yeah,
I think she needs to keep writing grants for them.
she looks pretty persistent, I think, she stays on it.
Well, so, I mean, I don't hear any disagreement, I think that makes a lot of sense
Okay,
to sort of
but we
stress.
gotta put this person on, under a
So
department.
that was what I was gonna ask, is
Okay, what do
please
you want?
come back to this and explain kind of the justification for me.
Well, if you're gonna have them under this floodplain coordinator, I suppose then we should look at the tax office, if we're gonna have them. I don't know where else to put them, I guess, anybody got any ideas? But I definitely think they should be under a department head, so they have a chance to have direction and accountability, I think, on writing these grants. I mean, they could spend 10 months on writing a grant, couldn't they, Rob? And are they doing it, or how do we know what progress they make until the check shows up? You know, I would think we could have somebody monitor them and see how they're doing. You know, the process moving along, you know, that way. They could take quite a while to write some of these grants.
Oh, yeah, I mean, especially when you're looking at federal grants and stuff, it's the amount of time that, just go through the RFPs and pull out the information we need, and like we said earlier, they're so competitive now, and the money, there's not as much money there, and there's more people asking for it.
Right. But it's, could be very beneficial to the taxpayers, I know that. If we get some of these grants. This siren project's what, $350 something?
Yeah.
And we were hoping we could, you know, supplement that a lot, but Rob's working on that grant, and 90 pages, is that what you said to start with?
Yeah.
You know, we're taking somebody that's an administrator at the law enforcement center and having him writing grants. I mean, his cup's pretty full, and now we gotta do that. I mean, we could put that duty over on somebody else. We're helping that situation out there. Gotta commend them for stepping up and taking that project on. But this particular grant, there's a lady in town at the USDA office is helping some, and there's another lady at Valley City that passes this grant along to Washington. So we've got people not too far away that can help. But it's just a matter of getting it done and somebody working on it diligently.
Through, rural development, what is it?
Yeah.
And we gotta thank Adam for being on the radio.
Yeah, that's.
That's how she found out. Darneen,
I knew I was
Good
waking
job.
up in the morning for some reason.
I know you did a really good job on that. So. But is everybody in agreement to put the individual under the tax office then?
Well, I don't know if that's something you can do. You'd have to certainly look at Century Code to see how that position is defined. I don't know of any other county that has it under something other than, you know, maybe the sheriff's office.
Well, that's a possibility, that went through my head too.
Yeah, but,
I did ask Jerry if he was on it, under anybody. I'm sure we can find out in the phone call.
If he's 911 coordinator, he's probably just running the 911, he's probably the boss of
He's
the
the
whole
boss.
works, I would guess.
Right.
He's probably, has all the employees under him, but. I mean, if, it might be a deal where you don't wanna have oversight, but oversight from two departments and how you're working, you know?
No, I agree with you there.
Cause I mean, it's kinda like two disparate, I mean, there's efficiencies there, but they're kind of different things to a point. I I mean, because if we're gonna utilize the person as a grant writer as best we can, I mean, there's all kinds of things that we could utilize them for grant writing. I mean, like when we put the gym floor in, for instance, you know?
Yeah,
Maybe there's grants out there for doing things like that, I don't know, but there's grants all over the place if you look in the right places. I mean,
Right.
so we might be able to utilize them on things like that too, but who do you want to have oversight on that, I guess is the question. Because it's kind of another, it's not an emergency management situation, it's a kind of a different beast.
right, no, I agree with
Yeah, so I don't know what the best fit would be, I guess. I'm not opposed to the concept of trying to utilize their time better, but where do you put it?
Well, the only place we can put them is the tax office.
Well, I think it's worthwhile to look, well, number one, do we advertise it as a standalone department? Or does it make any statement of that in there?
I don't think it, I don't know that it does.
Okay.
I don't know that it does.
Because that would be number one, because if you're changing parameters of the job,
Right.
I mean, at least we made mention of grant writing, the percentage would change a little, but we still advertised as such, so we would be fine as long as we made a claim in the interview that that's a larger portion of the time that we're looking for. But if you're saying in the advertisement, if it's a standalone, if it's who you're answering to type of thing, well, that might change the parameters of the job at that point.
And then are you still requiring this individual to come up during storms and open the building and do all those things that are required of, that we want to see out of an emergency manager?
I would assume so. I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't, I guess.
All right.
Maybe we can talk Roger into doing that again, huh?
Well, you still need a point contact person, and then that person branches out from there, is how it works.
That's
I've gotten a taste of it already, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think a major, I mean, I shouldn't say, I don't know exactly, but a lot of the emergency manager work is being that conduit between the different places that you utilize in the community, so you're that point person, kind of like the czar when something goes wrong. I mean, relationships are a huge part of it, you know?
Because then the law enforcement center only makes one phone call.
Yeah. Working with the sheriff, working with the PD, working with fire, working with
And then
search
I
and
go
rescue,
from
again,
there.
those are all important relationships you have to have in that position. So, I mean, maybe it's still some way we have it as a standalone department, but just the grant writing portion of it, we have, you know, just some type of a check-in system to make sure they're staying on task or
That's a
something.
good way to put it too.
I mean,
That would work.
you know, I don't know who the best person in the building for that would be, but I'm just saying, I mean, you know, because like Jeff made mention of it, century code, I don't know exactly how it lays out emergency management, if it has to be its own thing, if it, I know, because a lot of, like what you're mentioning with the 911 emergency management, that's not, Jamestown, or, you know, Stutsman County isn't the only county that does it that way.
No.
I mean, there's multiple counties where because there's a symbiotic, it works together, you know, it's kind of, you're already working with the same people, essentially, so it works, but I guess that's something we can hash out too as we go forward. I mean, figure out where we think the best fit on the oversight on the grant writing portion, but just leave the emergency management portion of it as its own, maybe for now, until we determine what we can do and can't do.
Well, and I think there's a lot of grants just within that emergency
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there is.
management FEMA type of hierarchy that would pertain more to that department.
Sure.
Instead of being so broad-based as we're gonna cover the entire county and try to write a grant for everything.
No, but I'm saying, you know, say for instance, on the siren switchover, we're gonna have to get all the radios, and
Right.
$1,500 of them are covered, but a lot of those radios cost more than $1,500. That's right up the emergency manager's alley to work with the sheriff's department and our other departments to break for radios. But at the same time, if maybe your emergency manager duties and you don't have any other grants that are kind of rolling, and you got something else in the county that could use some grant writing focus, and you've got that experience, why not throw it on their desk and say, hey, help us out real quick? utilize the assets we have in place
Absolutely.
and try to, get a little bit more funding from different places that doesn't have to come from here, But the focus on the grant writing and everything, which will still start from the emergency management and that perspective in my mind. But just try to utilize their time on other things when we have a chance.
That's why I think we need to have them under a department head. And not saying, well, we're working on emergency management grants, we need to work on other grants also.
Well, I have another question then, just to muddy the waters up some more. If we're gonna put them under another department, are they gonna be in that department? Or are they still gonna be in the basement? For a building that we're so cramped with space all the time, that's the one thing I always think of when I go in that building or in that office down there.
You can't get rid of that emergency
Is
operation.
all of that,
Yeah.
necessary?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that, if it was or wasn't.
Yeah,
I mean, you could probably, like the conference portion of it, you might not need, but the rest of it all has to be there.
well, that conference and the radio, that is a backup PSAP. So you have all the radios, you're supposed to have some computers there, and you're supposed to be able, if our 911 system went down, that is where we could transfer it to. That and in the event of a disaster, that's where we're gonna be making our decisions.
Of course.
Is downstairs, you activate an emergency operations center, and it's generally manned 24/7 until that disaster declaration is over with. And so you will have multiple people in there fielding phone calls, taking notes, filling forms, helping individuals out with their disaster claims.
So the space is necessary if it's, and when it's time to utilize it.
The space is necessary. It's a fundamental core part of that department, that office. And I think that, I'm not so sure that we are doing justice to that position. Because there's all kinds of various mandates that come down about exercises. And there's a lot of planning that goes into those, whether they be a tabletop, a full scale, whatever you have. You have to have that emergency operation plan, you have to have your hazard mitigation plan, and then you have to have exercises to make sure that those plans run smoothly in the event of a disaster. I think you have one scheduled with the airport here coming up in August, next week, and had we had an emergency manager in that position, that person would play a vital role in that operation, that exercise that's out there. And all these different entities have to do these exercises, whether they be just a planning exercise, a tabletop, or a full scale. They have to do those every so often. It's a
Oh, I
requirement
understand
of
all that, yeah.
But that doesn't happen, all the days of the year. I mean, there's no reason we can't use this person for other avenues here and to help the courthouse and the county along.
Right.
Grant writing is a big part of emergency management also. And
It
Jerry said that.
is
Grant
and
writing
it
is a
should
big
be.
part of 911 also.
It is and it should be.
Yeah.
There's a lot of aspects that play a vital role in emergency operations. And the new radio upgrades is a perfect example of that, and that's something that we should have been working on, or our previous emergency managers should have been working on.
Well, they just come through with the siren project. Finalized it here in the last month or couple months, is that what it is, Rob?
Yeah, as far as the actual cost for it.
Yeah.
They had,
But it's been on the table for a couple of
We
years.
knew it was
five,
coming. We knew it.
Yeah, we didn't know what the cost was gonna be, but we knew it was coming.
Astronomical. Anytime you go through a full radio changeover, it's big bucks.
It sounds to me like we're at the place where we agree that the job itself, parameters aren't necessarily gonna change, other than
I don't.
when we're interviewing people, I think it's valuable to just point out that would you be willing to, when you have some spare time, chip in and maybe write a grant for somebody here and there and within the parameters of the courthouse, within county business. I mean, I think that's a reasonable thing to bring up that, because when it comes down to it, like you said, emergency management, they're probably gonna be the best grant writer we have, because that's what they do a lot of their time. So why wouldn't we utilize those skills if they're used to it
They're
already?
supposed to do it.
Yeah, that's what they should be doing. So, I mean, just make it clear in the interviews, hey, this is something that at time to time, we might have another department that maybe might wanna utilize your skills as a grant writer, and would that be okay? I mean, I think that's clearly an easy way to go about doing it. From the aspect of putting it under another department, I don't know how that would function, simply because I don't know how it fits anywhere. That's my main problem, where I keep coming back to in my head, is I just don't know where it fits. It's kind of its own beast.
Well, it is a little bit, but I don't want them to go into the basement and fall into a rut and
Yeah, I understand that.
Right.
that's putting
I
it
mean-
blunt, that's putting it blunt.
I mean, maybe we have a situation where, because right now it goes to the chair, where we set up parameters where we say, as part of this job, we want periodic, maybe a monthly report on what grants do you have open, what are you working on, what are they for, how much are they for, what are the possibilities, and it comes back to all of us as part of a packet once a month, and then the chair can kind of stay on top of it. So, and then the other department heads will know at that point, we're gonna be utilizing that person as a grant writer. Then the other department heads can flow through the chair and say, hey, this is something that I think their skills would really fit as a grant writer, can you bring it to them? And then we can, make something work that way maybe. I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm just saying, I just don't know how it's gonna fit. I mean, in a formal process, comparatively.
Crystal, are we just
We're talking surface
or what do you think?
Well, I kind of see where your concern is with the accountability part. So I wonder if having somebody, I don't want to put it on Candy per se, but it's not hard for me when I'm not here a day to let Candy know where I'm at and to make sure somebody in the courthouse knows where I'm not gonna be in and what's happening. Cause you guys aren't here and then somebody's looking for me or the emergency manager or whatever and nobody knows where they're at. So I think that accountability part is maybe just having that one person that knows somebody whereabouts, not that they're gonna be staying and approving their time or where they're at, but just knowing what's going on.
Is that too much to ask our tax person, or what do you think?
Well, why is it too much to ask the county commissioner that's in charge of the portfolio? I mean, if.
I'm not in the building.
No, I know that, but there's amazing things like texts and emails where they could say, here's what I did today, here's what I intend to do today.
Well, I don't even think it necessarily needs to be a day-to-day thing, it's okay, once a month, this is what I'm working on. These are the dollar figures that are a possibility with this grant, this is the deadline, and you're gonna know then quickly if they're hitting deadlines, if they're not hitting deadlines, what they're applying for, if they're doing multiple things, if they're doing one thing. Estimated time for what it's gonna take to do the things that they're working on. I mean, just a little more feedback, I think would be valuable.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And if at that point it doesn't necessarily function as well as we want it to, we can make it where maybe, Candy or somebody is their contact person where they, you just do a quick check-in with them and say, where are you at today on this? How much, where you staying on top of getting this stuff done? We can change that function later. I mean, it's not necessarily an oversight from the standpoint of being, I can tell you what to do, but just double checking and making sure things are getting accomplished. I think what it comes down to is if we get the right person on the job and they're motivated and we put stuff on their desk, we're gonna get it done. If we have the oversight there to say, hey, how's it done?
Okay.
And I think the reporting,
Well,
if they're not gonna be there, to let somebody know. I mean,
Yeah, of course.
I'm fine with that.
I think they do have to be reachable at all times.
Yeah.
It's a 24/7
Yeah.
position and that cell phone has to be on and if they're not gonna be within their office, they need to either have something on their door saying, here's the number to contact, I'll be out this day or what have you.
But just so that someone,
And knows that they're
You know.
not gonna be there, and this is how to get a hold of them.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, normally when we were leaving the county, leaving the area, we let LEC know, rural and city fire, to make sure that they knew and understood that emergency management was gonna be out of the county. So, just because if it hit the fan while we're gone, somebody needed to know where you were at and that they weren't trying to reach you and have that emergency operations center open and you're not there to run it, kind of thing, so.
Well, I don't think we wanna tell the candidates that they're gonna be on 24/7, do we?
Well, no,
I
but
think they'll all walk out the door.
and they do have to understand that position comes with a lot of after-hour responsibilities. You know, because unfortunately disasters aren't on a time clock.
Boy, we're really changing this position then.
Well,
Huge.
Well,
What we had.
well, yes and no, I mean,
It's always
that
been
should be kind of the parameters of the job. I mean, you don't know when a train carrying anhydrous is gonna.
Oh, yeah, I agree,
mean,
they're there.
24, I mean, if it happens at 3 in the morning, you get the call, you're in your office. I mean, that's just how it is. It's an essential position. There's no, I mean, no. And that part of that comes down to it too, on oversight of making it a department head or not, because Crystal can correct me if I'm completely out of left field here wrong, which is quite possible. But if you make them somebody that's reporting to somebody, then at that point, overtime issues and things like that change too, correct?
They could start, yeah, if they're not carrying out, making the decisions of
Yeah.
their departments, for their departments, and then if they're not supervising anybody, that takes away that part, so. It could raise that they would have to be turned into a non-exempt employee too.
Because you need them to be exempt, because if they have to be here 1 week, 90 hours, that's just part of the job.
You mean emergency manager or the head, department head?
Yeah, well, the department heads are exempt.
Yeah.
If Candy needs to be here 90 hours when it's time to get stuff done, she's gotta be here 90 hours to get stuff done. And she doesn't get paid for those additional 50 hours, she's just here. So if it's a person that doesn't have anyone under them, and they're reporting to somebody, so essentially they're part of the department, at that point, they can become non-exempt, and then you're talking anytime over 40 overtime. There's employment law that comes into place here too, on how it functions. Because generally speaking, hopefully your emergency manager is working 40 hours a week, but there's gonna be a time where, like you said, disaster happens and all of a sudden you're in your office 100 hours that week. I mean, it happens.
The emergency manager is in the office 100 hours a week?
Why not?
It's never happened here.
Not here necessarily, but I'm saying when I used to work athletic training in Crookston, I put in 110-hour weeks in the fall.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
You
I
were-
wasn't, and I
you're
was
getting
exempt.
paid, right?
No, I got paid my salary, I was exempt. So I was getting paid 40 hours working 110. That was life. That's why I'm saying you get the right person, and I'm not saying me, but I'm saying you get the right person in the job. It's no different than you. If you go home today and you wanna get something done on the farm, who's telling you have to work today? Nobody. If I don't go home and just say, I'm gonna get this done, no one's doing my work for me. So you have to have that right person that has the
Well, I
drive that
understand how
says,
it works, yeah.
I'm gonna get it done. So that's where the interview process comes in. We gotta get that right person that has some drive that says, I wanna get this done. At least that's how I view it.
So am I correct in assuming that we have no deliverables from this discussion and can move on to the next?
Let's go.
No,
Lucas is ready to
no,
go.
We have a
Let's go.
second part to that question.
Oh goodness.
So I wasn't sure who you wanted to have on the interview committee, but if it's not the board as a whole, I wanna say that you have to.
Sounds like we better have the board as a whole.
Okay,
I think that's a good idea.
okay. Do you want me to go ahead with the scoring part of it, or do you guys want a scoring sheet and all that?
I'd appreciate it if you scored it, at least for my end.
Okay.
If other commissioners want to see all of them, without scores, that doesn't matter to me, but I'd like to see them scored. Yeah, but same score is what I got.
Okay. Does anybody else want a scoring sheet, application packet?
I would like one.
Okay.
Give everybody one.
Yes, give it.
Okay. And then when should we set a deadline to kind of move things forward for the interview? I mean,
How many applicants do we have?
I think it's there 8 right now, and 6 of them have, we only had 2 that met all the minimum qualifications, but they weren't real strong. So I did push the rest of them forward because that grant writing was missing on some of them. And so I left it up to the interview committee then to look at them to see if their experience would justify the interview, a warranted interview.
So we're gonna get to see all 8 basically, and then see where we're at on them.
All 6.
Six,
Yeah.
six.
Yeah, because the other ones, they didn't have the emergency management experience, no education.
Okay.
Things like that, so.
What do we do it this way? If Crystal and me pick out the 3 we want to interview, we're not gonna interview 6.
No, I would mention we're not gonna.
What if we picked out the 3 that we think should be interviewed? Then we just set up the schedule and what day would work for the commission then, I guess? We wanna do it next week?
Well, we got any time to get stuff set up, I'm sure too. We'll do it at the time.
Yeah, I would say if we could give the candidate, at least a
Week from tomorrow? Does that work?
week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
What time of the day we thinking here?
Start at 8. Is that all right?
It should be, I have another meeting that I can get up.
We're talking the 8th?
Up to 8?
You gone?
You're gone.
Yeah, but,
What about the next Thursday then?
I'm still gone.
15th?
When do you leave and when are you back?
I leave on the 8th, I'm back on the 19th.
Oh, geez, you're gone for a long time. Taking a good vacation.
If you do it somewhere in the middle there, I could probably sneak home.
15th?
I could probably sneak home.
Why can't we just do the afternoon
I think we allow, what, half an hour, 40 minutes at the most?
I
Should be
think
plenty.
we have a
Yeah.
hour,
what-
45 minutes.
Per,
Candy's suggesting Wednesday, the 6th, because we have a meeting that day. Or, yeah, Tuesday, the 6th.
I know we get them candidates in by then. What do you think, Crystal?
Would they around Wednesday?
Yeah.
I guess it would depend on how we wanted to go about scoring them and looking over applications. If you just had me and Ed do it, then we could try to get that turned around fairly quickly.
Yeah, I think,
But if we give it to all you guys to do, it would depend on how long you guys want for that.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you guys get it done today, I think we could probably do it on the 6th. I mean, get notice out to the candidates that you want to have interviewed.
do we use either the 6th or the 7th?
I'm fine with either of those.
7th, all right.
I was thinking we could even come back to 7, and just do it in the morning, knock it out quick. That'd be fine.
We'll keep you informed.
That's where you okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
So Wednesday the 7th, we're looking at?
6th or the
6th
7th?
or the 7th, whatever works
Oh,
better.
okay,
I mean, I think we're all open, correct?
okay. So if a candidate can't do Tuesday, we could look at Wednesday morning.
I'll sit down after this meeting and
Okay,
we'll pick out 3.
okay.
Yeah, sounds fair.
Okay.
So where we at?
Okay, so
Yeah, let's
so
go.
we got that.
Candy,
We got so much stuff.
Okay.
40?
Last,
40?
44. I saved the best for last.
Oh,
Which one's that?
I got to it.
Law Enforcement Center.
Oh. Yeah, must be listening. So this is the updated one in here?
Should say 726.
Okay.
Yep.
do you have a copy of this?
Not with me, no, but I've worked
You
with
can
the
answer
numbers
any
enough where I can,
questions.
yeah, I can answer questions.
Okay.
So it looks like you cut about 260 out, something like that,
Yeah.
on the LEC booster.
Yeah, yeah. So what was done was no step increases for staff. Cost of living will be 2% and keeping all benefits the same. On the 911 side, instead of we were asking for 2 additional dispatch positions, we're only adding 1. We did cut out the console replacement because we were looking to replace our consoles as well within dispatch because they depreciate out. We finally got the official quote on those. It came in at just under 80,000, so we're going to put that off for a year. If not, try to sneak it in to the rural development grant. And then on the reentry side, we eliminated 3 positions on the reentry side to get that down to where it is.
So we still have a projected deficit.
On the LEC and 91, yes. And there's, yeah, $8,000, I think, on reentry.
8473.
Yeah.
But the first go around, it was like 189.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and on the reentry side too, the revenues, I think, are a little low. Our projections are probably a little low there. We're averaging about 17.3 for an average daily population there. Our goal is 23, but I think more realistically, 20 is probably where we'll be sitting.
And on the law enforcement, we had the receipts for incarceration, we had them a little low too, didn't we?
Yeah, we went to the 3-year average.
We kind of plan on getting more feds and we get the camera and intercom done.
Right.
DIA,
Yeah.
we think we're a little low there.
Yeah, I know we're definitely low. I just, actually yesterday I got an email confirmation from Aberdeen that they're gonna be appropriating another $95,000 for our contract for this year. And we've already expended 35 of that is already, is gonna be billable to them. And with that 35, that'll put us at 75 for the year. So we're gonna be sitting about $135,000 that we're projecting this year from DIA. And that's with just trying to build that relationship back up. So I'm expecting that next year, as we continue to build that and get that history for them to be able to appropriate money to our contract, that we're gonna see that increase. The US Marshals really are kind of we just don't know once we get the project completed, how quickly they're gonna come and at what levels they're gonna come.
One of the things we also did at the law enforcement center after the 2 meetings, we spent close to 3 hours per meeting, right? With the full board there. Is we got the 911 budget broke down by itself, and it's gonna be by itself from now on. It's not gonna be intermingled with the other 2. In fact, all 3 will be separate. Right, Rob?
Right. And with that 911, we did apply, where we initially came around and showed that $240,000 if we hadn't split out in an infrastructure and in operations. We combined it so that we're still paying labor out of the 911 funds. It's just then that we use a cost share formula based off of the calls for service for each entity to determine the cost share, and that's where the county and the city, in the meeting it was agreed that they would work it out, that they're gonna take 50% of the shortfall in 911 and they'll work out how they're gonna split that, which I don't know. And then the remainder was split out amongst the other 4 counties based off of those calls for
The
service.
figure that we used, Robbins and me used yesterday, 174,000 total. And I agreed that the county would take 60 of that, and the city's gonna take the rest. And it's what they call a buy-in, is what they're calling it. So, for a better word, that's what I'll use, I guess. And the rest of the counties Benson took 52, is that close? I don't know.
Yeah, it was,
Eddie took about 33, Towner took 27 or 8, and
yeah,
Nelson took about 34.
Benson had a good chunk of the other half. again, 30 some odd percent. And then I think the other three were probably, well, it would have been 30 some odd, there would have been in the 20% area. The other three were about 10% each, when you look at the full 100.
So how much of that 174 you say we're taking?
We took 60, we're gonna take 60, is that all right with everybody?
So 100.
But that's a little strong, I probably said, but, yeah, maybe we was lying pretty hard, so.
103,000.
Look at 100, maybe 115, I think it
60%, 103.
No, he means 60,000
was. 60,000.
60,000.
Yeah,
of the 174.
is that better?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was
I
going
was on the
60,000.
phone,
I was
Why you were
going
rolling
60%,
your
and
eyes?
I was like, oh.
I was on the phone with you yesterday in Timbuktu.
Well, yeah, you know. Yeah, like,
Sorry.
yeah, I can live with that.
Really honestly, doing the budget this way with 911 split out is really gonna help us down the road. As I'm kind of going through and working on this grant application, one of the things that we run into is how we're gonna apply for it, whether we're gonna apply for it as the law enforcement center or as the E911 authority. And if we do it as the E911 authority, which would be preferential, we can show and look that, it's not self-sufficient to be able to advocate for those funds. When we go back and look at our previous budgets, it looks like it's self-sufficient. So, this is gonna really start to show that, no, it doesn't pay for itself, so it'll help us with these grant applications down the road.
So you just basically need to change the names of the separate entities in order to get that separate Dun and Bradstreet number and,
So our current DUNS number is under the city.
right?
And we gotta go through the process of getting it changed, and then whether or not we need to apply for a separate one for E911 authority. Because right now it doesn't have its own, the LEC operates under the one.
I think that may benefit you in the long run in grant writing.
Right.
If you have those separate entities and can show losses and,
Yeah.
One of the things we started out in the first meeting out there was gonna be an equal split amongst the city, 5 counties, and the law enforcement center. Well, I suggested we better throw the law enforcement center out of this thing because they're not gonna come up with this money and, we're just gonna have to feed it anyway, so. But after the process of going through these meetings, the city finally grabbed a hold of the fact that, they're the big user of this 911. They're using 60% approximately. Close?
Yeah, the city was at 48% of all our calls for service.
Yeah, okay, 48. So then they started grasping a hold of the fact that they're gonna have to take more of the financial responsibility. In Jamestown, Stutzman County's budget, I think it's close to 60, isn't it? Jamestown, the city of Jamestown covers in that budget.
Yeah.
Having those people come up, and Grand Forks is in too, Becky.
Yeah, Becky.
She runs the 911 down there, and the city down there takes close to 58 or something, right? Yeah. So everybody started grasping that we're gonna have to do this 911 by usage, not by equal membership.
Well, yeah. I looked at 911 center budgets across the state, and pretty much every other 911 center goes by a usage rate.
Yeah.
At least that I looked at. And then even in like places like Grand Forks County, UND dispatch for their police department runs through 911. So UND ponies up.
Right.
In Richland County, Wahpeton pays a big share of it, and NDSCS I think must have their own police or something, because they pony on board too.
Yeah.
So Cass County has Cass, Clay, Fargo, West Fargo, and Moorhead, and they all pay out percentages.
And that's
So
where
it's a pretty common occurrence.
the one entity that we're still looking at, we need to just determine how we're gonna go is Lake Region Ambulance. That's the one that we do, I think 10% of our total calls for service are for them, and, they don't contribute anything. So I'm working on communicating with them on how can we do this, because it may be a type of thing where, okay, they'll provide the ambulance services for our facilities with no cost, and then we'll continue, do a swap that way, or if we want to actually go through and start charging them a portion of it as well. So but you're looking at 10% of $350,000, they're not going to necessarily want to pay $35,000 a year. but if that's what the numbers show too, maybe that's not too bad of a deal.
But they've all been pretty decent here at the end. I mean, everything's kind of come together, I feel. There was some head scratching for a while. I know the outside counties were probably not very happy to start the meeting last Friday, was that when we met?
Yeah.
Yeah, and, but by the end of the meeting, they seemed to be all right with it. They felt comfortable, I thought, the figures were.
For them, it was, they wanted to pay their fair share.
Mhm.
You know, they knew that sometimes, you know, like Towner County said, it may cost us more in the long run than what we were paying, but we just wanna make sure we're paying our fair share.
Right.
You know, I think that's a reasonable way to look at it.
One of the things Mike Steffen said during the meeting, he said, set aside whatever mills you need for 911 in the budget, the county budget. So be it. Whether he used 5, I don't know if that might be a little strong.
Yeah.
He used 5 and he said, that's what you need, that's what we need, you know. There's no set mills in the century code for 911,
No, it's all general fund dollars.
so not like the law
Well,
of jail.
the thought process is that the fees are supposed to cover it, but it doesn't get close.
Don't even get told.
Well, I think I looked at it, so like the city of Devils Lake here is gonna have to pony up, what, 115,000? City of Mandan pays, Bisman 545, I think. So, I mean, it costs money to run a 911
Yeah,
center.
this is just the buy-in.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
not-
but that's the buy-in, and then the fees should cover the rest.
Yeah,
And I don't know how much of that money they're putting in a speed, I'm sure part of it's fees too, but I was looking at different 911 centers and just kind of curious how they fund it out.
yeah, well, I think it's agreeable. I already know what other way to go, but at least we have this budget by itself now. You know, and we know exactly what 911 is gonna cost us. It doesn't fluctuate much,
No.
cost-wise, so.
And one of the things we're gonna be doing too, to try and emulate like Grand Forks, is to develop like a 3-year project plan. So, you know, we need a new CAD, we've got console replacement, we're gonna start planning these things out 3 years, so that, you know, we're not getting, okay, next year this is what we need, and it's like, okay, how are we gonna get the money for it? So we can try and plan a little bit more for those types of things.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you got the budget you got in front of us, yeah, the 911 has obviously got a shortfall, but everything else is pretty much whole even, so I mean,
Which is very impressive.
yeah,
by the way.
considering
At
we
least in
started,
my
I
opinion.
think you guys did some pretty good work.
Yeah.
And all it's doing is we're showing that we've been essentially subsidizing 911 through other sources for a long time.
Paying some of the operators. This time, you know, if need be, we thought down the road, maybe the law enforcement have to subsidize 911 a little bit for the use of the operators, but now we're gonna leave it as other assigned duties to them. You know, they have to.
Oh, so we don't have any money transferring from the law enforcement center over to 911?
We had 6,000, wasn't it? We took that out.
Yeah, the rent, we took, that was gonna be the LC's contribution then for 911, is we just eliminated the rent that we were charging.
Okay. I think at some point it would probably be reasonable to try to work that into the equation, because I mean, they are doing things for the LEC, so there should be some type of a charge back for, so it's equal across the board for everybody, so we know where the costs are.
And that's where I think, to get back, you know, there was a practice, and we still have a CD on the 911 side, where if the LEC gets to a point where maybe they get a $50,000 CD to apply it to 911 again. But once that's done, that becomes 911 funds, and it can be used for everything else. So again, that's building up the, you know, the funds we have in hand, and then applying it towards the things that we need, instead of trying to spend money we don't have yet.
Right. The sirens, we gotta get that, you know, find out what direction we're going there. That's gonna take some time. We'll get there, I guess. Any other questions for Rob or Mark or me? And Mark felt it went pretty good, huh?
Considering going in, it was not a happy place, yes.
And the other counties they're all right with it, they were comfortable with it on Friday, I felt. We went around each one in the room and,
They all knew they had a great deal going, and it just isn't there anymore.
you know,
You just had to continually explain it to them.
two of them were sitting on the board when they had the juvenile contract and paying $35 incarceration fees. It's that we should have been paying 50, 60, 70, you know, and put some money away, you know. They both said that. You know, I didn't dwell on it at all, I thought you guys should know that, Candy should know that. No, they've been good to work with, really been good to work with. And I thanked them all again when we started this process. With the help they gave us last fall with the camera and the intercom system, I thanked them all again for stepping up and helping us then. I think it'll work, don't you, Rob?
Yeah. It's changing the mindset, changing the thought processes, to the way, you know, the way it used to be versus the way it actually is.
It's, every other county sets that 911 over here and runs it right, you know, that's what's, I have Stutzman County budget right here.
They got a straight 911 budget, out of the general fund. So is Richland, so is Fairport, so they all do.
One of the things that I thought interesting, Jerry said that Stutzman and Richland are kind of partnered up. They swap services somewhat in the evening, right?
Yeah, it's more for redundancy, like if they go down, then they'd be able to pick up and handle their call volume. But then during the evenings, I think, and I don't fully understand it myself yet, but as far as to where, you know, they can go down to one dispatch person at each facility and then handle calls and share calls throughout the evening.
Grand Forks and Fargo are doing that now, weren't they?
I don't,
Or were they planning that coming?
yeah, I don't know. I don't, especially now with Cass County going on a different radio system and stuff, I don't know.
They're gonna go state?
No, Cass isn't.
Cap.
Well, Cass jumped down, they're going to Minnesota,
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
yeah.
I know I asked both Becky and Jerry when they were there that day, I said, would you guys go with state radio? And no, thank you.
No, yeah, so they're, as far as the Siren project, I mean, I'm talking the Siren project, Cass County's not going to Siren, they're going into Minnesota,
Okay.
and they went with their own stuff.
They tried to pass a
So,
sales tax increase and it failed, so now it's coming back onto their taxpayers on their property taxes. And they're not real happy about it, but it was something that's in Cass County.
So we're gonna have interconnectivity in the whole state then, except for Cass County? Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of having interconnectivity and interoperability when they've got a third of the population of the state?
So they say.
yeah. Then all their, you know, they're still paying the $2 per line down there, and that's going to the Siren project that they're not gonna utilize.
I guess they
They
get.
get a lot of people pulling from it.
No, I understand, they have to make their own decisions on what's best for the county, but it just seems kind of interesting.
Cass County runs the 911 there, right? Not
Right,
Fargo.
right.
Yeah, it's a conglomerated 911.
Becky from Grand Forks, I'm pretty impressed with her too. You know, they do a good job.
She was in emergency management for a number of years too, up in Pembina County.
Yeah, she was good.
Yeah, she's very good. Both her and Jerry got a lot of experience between the two of them.
They do. Very informative. Wow, I learned so much there in a few minutes. It was unreal. Catch up. Anything else? I repeat this to them too.
I just put the budget at 1.4
For yours?
for the LEC.
Oh,
Oh yeah, I can put $1 million for mine, sure.
Jump around on me.
Sure.
Okay, sounds good. You got it?
And then do you still need this for the grants?
It's not time sensitive right now, you know, so the grant application.
I mean, I
that we're
have it
looking at-
on there, so.
Yeah, and we were really working on it hard and trying to see what we could do, because we wanted to try and get it in for the fiscal year this year. But now we're running into some issues with our DUNS number and who needs to actually apply, because our DUNS number's under the city of Devils Lake. And, you know, do we want to apply as LEC, do we want to apply as the 911 authority? You know, we're going to continue to work forward and work with the USDA in regards to the application. It's just, I think we all agreed in the meeting yesterday that we need to just make sure we do it right. And so it's probably going to be for the next grant cycle after October, that is when we'll be applying for it.
Don't do this now.
I would wait, because I don't know again yet who we're gonna actually have apply for the grant. It's just as we were trying to really get the ball rolling on it, I want to get stuff out as soon as
The rest of it is certification of significant community support.
Yeah,
So we support it.
yeah. And it's just, I haven't got the official numbers on the grant yet, but we'll qualify for. I'm expecting probably 15% is all it's gonna be, because I have to look at the total service area. And look at the way that the rural development grants work is it's based off of median income, and when we're looking at the whole service area, that median income is actually gonna come up, so. Our contribution, but anything else.
15% of 350 is still a pretty good chip.
Right, and then the rest of it would automatically go right into a direct loan. I think they're talking 30-year loan on that, but we take a look and see what our options are there as well.
Okay, anything else under visitors and delegations? We have none. Announcements, any announcements? We're adjourned.